Hoy vamos a hablar de servicio, que es algo clave. O sea, tenemos que ver lo que el Señor nos ha llamado a hacer, servir a la sociedad, servir al más necesitado. ¿Y quién más para hoy? Tenemos una invitada especial para hablar de servicios. Es nuestra querida amiga, nuestra querida hermana Lisa Mathews. Lisa Mathews, yo la conocí hace muchos años, donde ella estaba trabajando en Pullman, sirviendo en un área de servicio con Love Inc., pero también trabajó en Jacksonville. Tiene 8 años de experiencia trabajando y entrenando personas para cómo servir mejor a la ciudad. Es decir, es una coordinación de muchos esfuerzos y ella era la que estaba detrás de todo el esfuerzo, lo que estaba haciendo ella. Ahora, recordando, una cosa es decirlo, otra cosa es hacerlo. Y ella lo hizo. Ella lo estuvo haciendo y todavía hay resultado de todo ese trabajo que ella hizo allá. Ahora ella es la catalista de los Estados Unidos para movimiento. Es decir, movilizando ciudades para lo mismo que estoy haciendo para Latinoamérica, ella lo está haciendo para los Estados Unidos. Así que para nosotros es un honor tener acá a Lisa con nosotros. Así que, Lisa, los micrófonos son tuyos. Conversanos, háblanos. Just go ahead, Lisa. Tell us about how we can serve better. Tell us a little bit about you and how we can serve better in our city. So that's what we want to do. She's going to speak. I don't know if you're going to do it in Spanish or English, but I think she's going to do it in English. She's going to feel more comfortable.
I'm going to do it in English, but my heart is in Spanish.
Oh.
Thanks, Jose and Arturo, and just delighted to be with you all today. I'm excited because this is my passion area and is something that my heart beats hard for, helping and serving and supporting our neighbors who are hurting and in need, and supporting the local church in doing that effectively in the name of Jesus. So thank you for letting me be here today. I'm going to guide you through some slides to help our conversation. But as always, you know, I'm always here. So after today, feel free to reach out to talk about your area where you're serving and ways that we can serve you going forward. So let me see if I can make my slides work. There we go. So just a little bit about me. I live in Holland, Michigan, as Jose said. I've served in church and nonprofit leadership for the past 13 years. Most of that work has been focused on supporting the local church and caring for the poor. I have loved Jesus with all my heart since I was 18 years old when I was introduced to him. I have a BS in organizational development. I live with my daughter, Emily, and her husband, Stephen, and these two precious little boys that you see in this picture here, Beckett and Grayson. And that picture was taken a couple of years ago when we were in Costa Rica. I have served in Costa Rica, in Guatemala, in Mexico, and I have driven from Indiana all the way down to Costa Rica in a car. And so I have lots of stories I can tell you about that. I was honored to be married to my husband, Todd, for 33 years, and he is waiting for me in heaven. So that's a little bit about me. So the goal of Christian service, I want to introduce you to some new ideas today, some new ideas that you already know. I just want to present a new way of thinking about them. So the goal of Christian service is not about solving problems. It is not about solving problems. It should be about inspiring the ability to serve, and we're calling that servantness. It's an active receptivity to the love of God, and because we're secure, loved individuals, we're able to love our neighbors as the Bible tells us we should. This is the essence of that single command where Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. The Jews had 513 commands. 10 of those we know as the 10 Commandments. Jesus wrapped it all up in 2. He said, love your neighbor, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. So for me, and I've learned this in the last few years after, losing my husband, every breath we take is a gift. And it is difficult for many of us to learn as servants to receive. I want to talk about that. Every gift, every breath we have is a gift that we receive from God. And one of the lessons that we have to learn is how to receive. And Jesus said, isn't it more blessed to give than receive? But should we not want that greater blessing for our neighbor? I know that's a little bit of a different way to think about it, but think about receiving as a way to bless your neighbor. This is the essence of being a servant, to allow Christ and others to serve us as we offer ourselves. So let's talk about the purpose of serving with dignity. I'm going to introduce some big ideas today. They're not new ideas, they're big ideas. And we're going to talk about dignity, assets, presence, grace, hope, and love. So how do these work together to make us more effective in caring for our neighbors who are poor? I want to talk about, well, first of all, this training normally takes about 10 hours. So it's going to feel a little bit like you're getting a lot of information in a short amount of time. So hang in there with me. I want to start with the Good Samaritan. It's a common parable. We all know this, right? The parable of the Good Samaritan. But I want you to think about this a little bit different. So the common version of this parable is that, like the Good Samaritan, we are to be helpful to people in need. While the parable does teach this, this is not the central lesson that Jesus sought to convey. Now, before you stop listening to me, hang in there for a second. If we view the message to be helpful to people in need, this places us in the role of being the Savior. That is the root of many troubles when it comes to serving our neighbors with dignity. A more correct reading of the parable could be this: Jesus is the hero who rescues. He heals us and he saves us. He does this because he is merciful and he is good. That's what the story is about. Secondarily, the parable is about a man who is half dead by the side of the road. He receives help, but he is clearly on the receiving end. We like to be the hero, but Jesus came to say, you can stop playing God. I am here. And what we all have in common is our need of a Savior. When the expert in the law tried to test Jesus, he would have already known that we should be kind. But Jesus used this parable to teach him that in order to inherit eternal life, we sometimes have to receive help from someone we look down on. Jesus tells the parable in response to the lawyer's question, who is my neighbor? The lawyer answers, the one who had mercy. The central teaching of the parable is we all need mercy and we all need a Savior like Jesus. So how does this connect to this idea of meeting human needs? So here's a big idea. I want to introduce you to a phrase, and I don't know if this comes across in Spanish, but we talk about this idea of dignified interdependent relationships. What that means, thinking about what we all have in common. We all are dependent on God. We all have to receive help at some time from others, and we all have to give help to others. That means we're all interconnected. It's called a dignified interdependent relationship. So I drew a picture. to help us think about this. So the bullseye that I'm talking about is this concept of dignified interdependence. That's where we are depending on God, we're receiving from others, and we're giving to others. Now, in order to enter the circle, you have to have humility. That humble heart that says, I know I'm broken and lost and I need help. And then you move to reciprocity, and that's that giving and receiving. And that's when you reach that bullseye of dignified interdependence. But on the outside of the circle here, I've put some barriers. One of them is self-sufficiency. I don't know if you've ever considered this, but self-sufficiency is a myth. It does not exist. And when you look to someone and you say, someone who is poor, and you say, I want to help you become self-sufficient, what you are saying to them is, go be your own God. You go take care of your own problems and you can be self-sufficient. Now, what that leads to is in the lower left-hand corner, my left-hand corner is indifference. In other words, that's your problem, not mine. Now, on the right-hand side, my right-hand side, there's another barrier to entering the bullseye, and that is codependence. In other words, let me be God for you. You don't know how to solve your problems. I will help you. And I know more than you, so you should let me be your God. And that leads to condescension. That means you're looking down on someone. When you get into this beautiful space of dignified interdependence, you understand that we're all on the same page as followers of Jesus. We all need Jesus and we all need each other. And we get to work together towards that dignified interdependence. So let's talk, how does this work? Our first principle is dignity. We are created in God's image. All people have dignity. It's God's gift, and we rely on God as the one who gives and secures human dignity. Some things I want you to think about. You have tremendous value and worth, but so does everyone else. And you cannot give people dignity, they already have it. So we're going to be looking at some passages in Philippians. I'm not going to read them all to you, but I'm going to read some of them. But I want to read this one to you, Philippians 2:5-10. Paul says this, have this attitude in yourselves, which was also in Christ Jesus, who, as he already existed in the form of God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped. He emptied himself by taking the form of a bondservant and being born in the likeness of men. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death on a cross. For this reason, God also highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name which is above every name, so that at the name of Jesus, every knee will bow, of those who are in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and that every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. This passage is known as the Christ hymn. It is also one of the first songs of the Christian church. It is also the heart and soul of the concepts that I want to talk to you about today, for it teaches us the fundamental things of dignity and service. There are two clear statements in the passage that show us how Jesus has protected human dignity. Verse 7, Jesus made himself nothing. So what that means is that you and I cannot empty ourselves of value because he already did that for us. Verse 9, God exalts Jesus to the highest place, that of Lord. This is also a place that is not for us. This is the place that God has reserved for his son, Jesus Christ. So as you look at this picture here, you see Jesus is Lord at the top, Jesus is nothing at the bottom. And in the middle, you see that human journey that we're all on with all of its ups and downs and twists and turns. And in between these two places is where God is protecting us. No one can empty themselves of dignity, that so much dignity that become nothing, because Jesus already did that. No one can rise so high that they eclipse Jesus as Lord. These are the boundaries that have been put in place to protect us. Jesus has done the work for us through his life, death, and resurrection. His work is sufficient. So how might thinking of Jesus in this way help you have more compassion for yourself and for others? And go ahead and feel free to put that in the chat. Thinking about Jesus as the protector of human dignity. You can never be nothing. You can never be Lord. You've got that beautiful journey in the middle. How does this help you have compassion for yourself and for others? I believe this creates a posture of humility so we're able to give and receive. It says God created mankind in his own image. That's us. So let's talk about assets. Everyone has something to offer. Think on that a second. Everyone has something to offer. What is God's gift? We rely on God as the one who blesses us all with assets, which allows us to give and receive more abundantly. So think about this. Assets are the full range of resources that can be used to lead a person or community forward. Assets include interests, talents, strengths, hope, money, relationships, property. An asset-based approach will yield greater opportunities than a needs-based approach. And honestly, for me as a minister of the gospel, this principle has been more effective in changing the way that I think about the way I engage with my neighbors who are hurting than anything else. Because we do sometimes go in to help someone and we feel sorry for them. We feel pity for them. We don't see them as having an ability to transcend their struggle. But when I started to understand that people are made in the image of God and have dignity, and they are able to participate in their own well-being, I stopped trying to be the savior and I started trying to be a friend. And I started trying to remind people who were hurting of God's love for them and his dream for their success and his dream for them to be a part of his plan on this earth. This was a critical moment for me to change the way that I engage with my neighbors who are hurting. Paul says, look to the interests of others. And I believe understanding this principle, everyone has something to offer, gives a profound way to step into this. It takes us from that scarcity mentality to one of abundance. It opens those living waters of God's blessing to engage the very people we sometimes overlook in bringing solutions, and that is the very people we mean to serve. Focusing on assets allows us to discover what everyone in the community has to offer one another. It's pretty cool, actually. A needs-based approach tends to focus on meeting a short-term need, and it creates this attitude of us helping them. Those with gifts helping those with needs. An asset-based approach helps get rid of all of that and counteract false notions of superiority and inferiority. We're not to ignore people's needs, but we're meant to look for that treasure, the hidden treasure of assets in people and in communities. I have a story about, hold on, I got a grandson here. So I have a story about when I lived in Guatemala. So we lived in Guatemala for about a year, and we built a Christian school there. And so every day, this little, frail, elderly lady would come knock on my door. And she would ask me for things, food, clothing, blankets. So I started just like collecting things by the door. And when she would come, I would give her a few coins or some clothing that I had that I, could share with her. And then one day she knocked on my door, and I was saying, well, what do you need? And she said, oh, no, I don't need anything. I want to give you something. And she gave me 3 potatoes. And I received those 3 potatoes as if I was receiving, a gourmet meal, because I knew that she was sharing with me out of her meager possessions. And I cooked those potatoes and I served them to my family, and we were humbled. Now, I could have said, oh, no, you don't need to give me your potatoes. I don't need anything, and you shouldn't share those, right? But I would have cheated her out of the blessing of giving. So I received those potatoes, and I received them with all my heart. And that's what I mean when I talk about assets. It's understanding that the very people we mean to give to have something to give to us. It's a very humbling thing. So let's talk about needs versus assets. So think about a neighborhood in your community that has a lot of needs. I'm sure you can think of one, right? Maybe even put the name of that community in the chat, because then we can remember to pray for those communities. So think about the needs in a community. And I'm going to give you some examples here of a neighborhood in our area. So there's a need for yard care, tutoring for children. There's a need for home repair. There's a need for housekeeping and meals for the elderly, adult education. We need activities for teens that are getting in trouble. We have drug dealers on the corner. We need childcare for single parents, and we need to help them with owning their own home. Those are a lot of needs. Now, as an outsider looking in, I might not be able to see the assets, but I want you to think a little bit with me. First of all, they have homes and yards. That's an asset. They have children with an interest in education. They have elderly neighbors with experience. They have people who want to learn. They have potential entrepreneurs. That's the drug dealers. They have teens who could help with childcare. So can you see how just changing your perspective a little, you can begin to look in an area that has what appears to be amazing need, and there's actually assets right there within that neighborhood that need to be unearthed and brought to fruition to the glory of God. Oftentimes when we seek to help a neighbor with a need, we forget to see them as the greatest asset. One of the greatest skills we need to develop as redemption bringers is how to unearth assets that are embedded within the problems we mean to solve. Everyone has something to offer. Memorize that phrase. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 new words here, 3 ways of thinking about helping our neighbors in need: relief, betterment, and empowerment. 3 different ways of helping. They're all necessary, but you need to grow in your wisdom on when to use these different methods. So one is relief. So that's a crisis. There's been a hurricane or some disaster has happened. So you're going to jump in right away. You're going to bring help. You're going to rally the troops. It's usually short term. It's event oriented. You're going to give something. You're going to focus more on doing something for someone. And the goal is service. The next thing I want to talk about is betterment. Betterment is creating a positive, caring environment. It could provide a relational opportunity. It provides respite, a positive experience. It could be a class. It could be a mom's group, something that helps someone begin to understand that there's hope. But an iron rule is never do for someone what they can do for themselves. And I don't say that to be not nice. I say that because you want to help people see that they are part of their own solution, that God has given them gifts and talents and hopes and dreams, and we want to unearth those through our relationships. The last one is empowerment. So empowerment will address a chronic nature. So if I need to ask for food every day because I can't feed myself, then we need to understand why that's happening. And empowerment will help address that chronic need. It will focus on opportunities. It's a longer term journey with someone. It's relationship oriented, and you're doing something with someone. You're helping that person learn a skill. You're helping focus on what they can do to contribute. And it usually leads to change in a community. The goal is empowerment. Now, what happens is people can often get confused on when to deploy which approach. Oftentimes, we have a tendency to provide relief, and we think it's leading to empowerment, and that rarely ever happens. Empowerment usually happens in the context of relationships. Mm-hmm. So I'm introducing these to you to think about in your own context, and also so that you can grow in your ability to have wisdom on knowing what kind of support and help is needed in different situations. And I'm always ready to talk more about this to help you think it through. So let's talk about this concept of presence. The closer you are to a problem, the closer you are to a solution. Problems are rarely ever solved from a distance. God's gift, relying on God's presence, will help us get close to problems without being consumed by them. Think about the God who has always been everywhere and who makes every place relevant. Place is where we are in the world, relationally, geographically, culturally, and redemptively. It is the context for our lives. And this is why at Movement, we talk about cities, because God wants to redeem cities. You live in a place. God wants to use you because you are close to the problems in your city. So the closer you are to the problem, the closer you are to a solution. So you are the redemptive agent in your city. This is very profound. Please hear me on this. You are close to the problems. God has appointed you to bring the solutions that he wants to bring to your city. There are always outside agents who can provide support, encouragement, blessing, but you are close to the problems. The closer you are to a problem, the closer you are to a solution. You are redemptive agents, and relying on God's presence will help you get close to problems without being consumed by them. So where are your relationships lived out? In your home, your neighborhood, your work, your church, through travel, through the digital social media world, events, someone else's home. And I just put this in here to just prompt you to do some work in your own heart. If most of your relationships take place on the internet with people who are far away, I want you to think about, how do you solidify and grow your relationships in your home, in your own neighborhood, in your work, and in your church. That's your sphere of greatest influence. That's your place of greatest impact. The closer you are to the problem, the closer you are to the solution. Grace. I'm moving through here pretty quick, lots of deep talk, but Philippians 4, the greater the cultural difference between people, the longer the time needed to trust. Relying on God's grace will help us bridge barriers to trust and build dignified, interdependent relationships across cultural differences, but it takes time. Think about cultural structures are the perceptions, policies, and practices that support the way things are. They're our social framework. Cultural distinctives, such as race, ethnicity, age, gender, education, and wealth, vastly influence our perceptions. The bridge to trust in our human relationships is our shared and desperate need for the grace of God. He gives us all grace in some measure, and grace is an unexpected kindness, a gift that changes everything. When we embrace the fact that no one is more deserving of God's grace than anyone else, we find ourselves on common ground, and we can take the time to get to know one another and to celebrate our differences. You know, when I was in language school in Costa Rica, I had a teacher my Spanish teacher that I just loved. Her name was Dina, and I wanted to be Dina's friend. But I could tell that Dina was standing apart from me. And I asked her, Dina, I would really like to be friends. And she said, well, you Americans, you consider us to be desechables. And I remember I didn't know what that meant. And she said, well, it means that you think we're disposable. And when you leave here, you will forget me and you will never look back. And that pierced my heart because it was true. We have a tendency to be with people for a time and then we forget them. And this principle challenges me because it takes time to build trust. If you go into a community where you don't know the language, you don't know the culture, you don't know the norms, and if you think that overnight you're going to be effective, you are mistaken. It takes time to understand poverty. It takes time to walk with people and journey with them. And that means we need grace. So I just want to encourage you that when you start this work, you won't see impact right away because it takes time. And even if it's someone in your very own neighborhood, if you are coming from a position of doing well and you are trying to serve someone in poverty, there's a great cultural difference there that has to be transcended. And I just want to encourage you to put that time in solidifying those relationships so you can be effective in supporting someone. I want to talk about hope. Philippians 1. Our desired impact should be matched with commitment. Relying on the hope we have in Christ Jesus helps us make commitments that make a difference. Think about God's commitment comes before ours, and our commitments are revealed in how we spend our time. Paul said this, I am confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work among you will complete it by the day of Christ Jesus. This is a critical part of this discussion. When we serve others from a position of power, we can bring expectations for a change of heart and behavior and results. And when we don't see those results the way we want them to happen, we can get frustrated and we're tempted to walk away. One important consideration is that because of Jesus and because we remember the work he does in and through our lives, we can rest knowing our labor to serve is not in vain. We can commit to serve in difficult situations over longer periods of time because the outcome rests in his hands. Time might be our greatest treasure. Have you ever thought about that? It's something that we all wish we had more of, right? It could be our greatest treasure. When you think about common issues in society, homelessness, broken families, healthcare, human exploitation, freedom of expression in the arts, discrimination of race and gender, underemployment, joblessness, transportation issues, education issues, government problems, environment issues. When you hear this list, which of those would cause you to reallocate how you spend your time? Which one of these would you say, okay, I want to get close to that problem because I want God to use me as a solution? And that is when we step into that space of our desired impact should be matched with commitment because it takes time. It's a long journey to solve some of these problems. So I'm getting close to the end here. Love. People are more important than change. I'll say that one again. People are more important than change. God's gift, God's love for us allows us to love others, whether they change or not. Think about our most significant task in life is to accept the love of God. God is the author of change. Paul said it this way in Philippians, "And this I pray, that your love may overflow still more and more in real knowledge and discernment, so that you may discover the things that are excellent, that you may be sincere and blameless for the day of Christ, having been filled with the fruit of righteousness which comes through Jesus Christ, for the glory and praise of God." Such beautiful words. So I've talked about some big ideas today and quickly moved through some very deep topics. Each one deserves your prayerful consideration. As Paul said, the most important of these is love. We're called to sacrificially serve others to the glory of God. We're called to dwell in this space of dignified interdependence, giving and receiving to the glory of God. It is God that changes our heart. It's our privilege to be instruments of redemption that he graciously allows to reveal his heart for our neighbors in their time of need. So I want to do a final review here. We started with dignity. All people are made in God's image. Then we talked about assets. Everyone has something to offer. Then we looked at presence. The closer to the problem, the closer to the solution. Then we looked at grace. The greater the cultural difference, the longer it takes to trust. Hope. Our desired impact should be matched with our commitment. And finally, we talked about love. People are more important than change. So when you're thinking about your communities and you're dreaming, I want you to dream together, and these might be some good questions to start your discussions. This neighborhood will be more like heaven when? What is one thing we can do together now? What do you care enough about to act on? And how do we embed in our leadership culture a care for place? So these are the 6 principles that I want you to begin to pray about, think about, and ponder as you engage in your community. And I hope this information is helpful for maybe giving you some tools and strategies as you think about caring for neighbors in need in your communities. Jose, I'm going to pass it back to you and see if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa, can we say thank you to Lisa? That was incredible. That was so good, Lisa. Oh my, I want to learn more now.
Good.
It's like I want to know more about this topic. I think this is great. So we have some questions, and I wanna. If anybody has a question, please raise the hand or write it in the chat room, and that way we can talk about it. We have a few minutes that we can ask you a few questions.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you a question. When you were living in Costa Rica or Guatemala, so which one? What do you think is the weakness of the church leaders in the service? Any weakness? How we can go over or get better in that? So,
yeah, it's been a few years since I've lived there, but I think a weakness that I encountered was, and please don't misunderstand me, there was a focus on saving souls. And sometimes there wasn't a focus on saving the community. And I see those as being interdependent. We need to save someone's soul, but we also need to feed them. And how do we as the church not only meet the spiritual needs, but engage in really helping people who are hurting become active, full-fledged members of a thriving community? That to me is an important skill to learn. Wow,
that's good. So I have more questions. If anybody don't have questions, I have questions. So I can ask several questions. Another question coming to my mind is, you mentioned about Jesus being the Lord, and also you mentioned in the beginning that what was the other one that we are? I forgot what the one that you mentioned. I think in the beginning, you mentioned about the importance to recognize that Jesus already paid the price.
Yes.
That all of that. So my point is, sometimes pastors we serve and we serve and we serve and we serve and we serve, and is that something that we can, because we feel that we are giving something, we are feel, and which is good, we're obeying the Lord, but I wonder if there is something else there, because how can we break that cycle of always serving the same people all the time? What areas we can improve in others that you say, okay, they have something to offer, how to motivate that, you know what I mean? So it's just
that is the question. People who are hurting, who have been crushed by life, by pain, by abuse, by generational influences, have forgotten that they're made in God's image. They don't know that. For me, the greatest redemptive action of the follower of Jesus is to remind someone who is broken and hurting, you are made in God's image. You have dignity. You are endowed with inherent dignity, and you have something to offer. You have to remind people who have forgotten that and give a new birth to that realization, so that they want to participate in God's plan for their life.
That's good.
I get very excited about this. I have seen broken people who thought they had nothing to give understand that they are made in God's image, that they have something to contribute, that the world is a better place because they're in it, that God had his eye on them from the beginning of time. I have seen people understand that and come to that realization, and their lives are better, and the community's lives are better, and God's name is made great because of it.
Awesome, awesome. Luis Padrón has a question. Luis, adelante.
Hola, buenas tardes. Lisa, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really enjoy it. I have a question to you regarding what strategies, qué estrategias usted usa, do you use? You said something that we never do for people, or not never, but the point is not to do things to people that they can do for themselves.
Yes.
Okay, and I believe that because you want them to learn to fish. You don't want to give them the fish to them. You want to have something long term.
That's right.
So there is a challenge in
Sure.
that matter. What strategies do you use to do it in love, and to make them understand that they need to do things for themselves?
Right.
Do you understand my question?
I do.
It's a challenge. It's not like, hey, you need to do that for yourself.
Exactly.
I can do that for you.
You are completely correct in the question. And it is not an easy process. And that's what I was talking about, where people forget that they can contribute to their own well-being. And that requires relationship. Now, Paul said it is kindness that leads us to repentance. So I would err on the side of kindness always. And sometimes you are going to do something for someone that they're going to do for themselves. And hopefully, as you are journeying with them forward, you're also leading them to see the opportunities they have to grow and learn. But that's about the relationship. So if you've just met someone and they're asking for help, you're not going to say, hey, go do it yourself. That's that barrier that I talked about, right?
Yeah.
But if you've been journeying with them for a while and you've been helping and supporting and encouraging, there's going to come a point when you've earned the right to say, you know what, I believe in you. I'm pretty confident you can handle this. And you know what, I'm your biggest cheerleader and I'm with you. So it's about relationship, it's about support, and it's about divine wisdom. You ask God to show you when to push and when to wait. The closer to the problem, the closer to the solution. And your outcomes are going to be matched by your level of commitment. So that's how living into those principles can help you grow in your wisdom and discernment and understanding. A very good question. It's a very pragmatic question.
So, Lisa, anybody else have another question? Because I have another question. So I just wanted to see if anybody has more questions. Anybody else? There you go. I have another question. Is Lisa? See, I have a lot of questions. So, Lisa, in the process to do that, when you are caring for people, you are going to encounter people and bring people in different levels.
Yep.
Like there gotta be a way to, okay, one level, we get this person without nothing, start the relationship, start the training, then go to the second level. Okay, now you are learning about principles about finances or how to manage whatever you have, and so then another level. So okay, I can start my own job or things like that. Then we start another person coming down here. So it became like something. Do you have something like that we can grab, like and apply in our ministries or daily life? I don't know if Love Inc. you have something like that in what you did with Love Link.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we trained people with this material. Like, I said earlier, this is like a 10-hour class. We train people on, being budget counselors and financial coaches, helping people work on their job skills, their parenting skills. So, it's about that relational engagement. But I know that you guys are leaders of leaders in your communities. And I know that you're I would think if I were in your shoes that you would want to raise up other leaders because there's only so much of you, right? So there's that tension between getting into the, the everyday serving, but then also serving from a leadership perspective. And I just want to encourage you to be comfortable with raising up leaders of leaders, and that's what you do. And then you see greater capacity and greater growth in the impact that you can have within your communities by inspiring these principles in other people who are leading within your neighborhoods.
Very good. Excellent, Lisa. Well, Lisa, we are just blessed oh, wow. Thank you so much, Lisa, again. We got to figure out a way to bring you back again.
Absolutely.
This is so good that I am even willing to open that. I don't know if sorry about that, putting you in the spot right now, but if we can have some people to train in this information, maybe I don't know, like a 10 weeks class or something like that, how we can train our leaders to do better in this topic about serving our community. That would be incredible. So I don't know, I am just putting you in the spot right here. I am so sorry.
Hey, like I said, this is my area of passion, is supporting followers of Jesus and being effective in caring for the poor. We know that Jesus dwells with the poor, right?
Yeah.
And transformation happens when you go there and you watch what God wants to do. So this is a passion area for me, because this to me is where you encounter Jesus Christ. And so the more I can facilitate effective engagement, that to me makes me feel like my life matters and that God is using me in a mighty way.
Awesome. Wow. Excelente. So if you don't know, in the chat room, thank you, Arturo. Arturo already put there. Arturo ya colocó la información del PowerPoint, ¿verdad que sí? Allí la tienen, pueden bajarla para antes de terminemos, para que ya la bajen en su computadora o en donde usted tiene está bajando la información y la pueda tener allí con usted. Y si le gustó esto, háganoslo saber. Podríamos hablar más de esto, de cómo hacer todo esto. Yo estoy muy contento por esta enseñanza porque despertó preguntas en mi mente acerca de cómo servir mejor y cómo empoderar mejor. Y todo esto va conectado con emprendimiento, negocios, ayudar a otros a que tengan su propio pantano para pescar, ayudar a otros a que tengan su propia forma de cambiar la mente, muchas cosas que podríamos hablar aquí en el tema de servicio. Así que estoy muy agradecido por Lisa. Así que muchas gracias. Veo la mano levantada de la hermana Marley. Si tiene Lisa, ¿tienes tiempo para una pregunta más? One more questions, or I don't know.
Sure.
Está bien. So Marley, adelante, rapidito.
Sí, thank you, Lisa, because I just want to share, it's like a confession, how God used you to show me I have been wrong in my attitude, in my heart, even working with training leaders. As you said, most of us here are working training leaders, but I was so anxious about many things. And then especially today, I was really angry or something, because especially people around me, not exactly people that I don't know, but people really close to me. And then when you said, as close you are the problem, close you are to the solution. That was really cool to hear, because they're close and sometimes I want to go away from that, you know? Yes. And I feel I can't. And also I felt a lack of grace. So when you said it's more important the person and the change.
People are more important than change.
Yes. So that's really a conviction. That was really a conviction. So I thank you so much, because I was kind of praying before our meeting for God to show me something.
Yeah.
And God used you. Thank you so much.
Bless God and bless you, my friend.
Okay, bless you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing, Marley.
That's beautiful. How about we close in prayer? What do you guys think about that? Would that be
I think
okay?
it's great. Yep.
Can we pray? I want to ask Pastor Ramón Lorenzo ahí en Queens, en New York. Pastor Ramón, ¿puedes por favor cerrarnos en una oración? No muy larga, cortica. Sé que te gusta la oración, así que agradecido. No te escucho, Pastor Ramón, no te
Sí,
escuchamos.
amén. Te escucho,
Ahora,
José.
ahora sí.
Muchas
Adelante.
gracias por esta gran bendición que hemos recibido en el día de hoy. De verdad que estoy comprometido, muy impactado y motivado. Oremos, Señor, en el nombre de Jesús, gracias por esta oportunidad maravillosa. Gracias por José, gracias, Señor, por Lisa, por traernos, Señor, esta enseñanza maravillosa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante, Señor, alcanzando nuestras comunidades, involucrándonos allí para llevar solución, pero sobre todo para que nuestras comunidades alcancen la salvación. En el nombre de Jesús, bendícenos a todos, Señor. Te damos gracias en este día. Amén y amén.
Amén, amén. Gloria a Dios. Así que muchas gracias a todos.